I knew something was wrong with Hollow Creek before I ever set foot inside it. Not when I saw people standing in full sunlight without shadows. Not when I heard church bells ringing at noon. Not even when I saw my sister, who had been missing for 15 years, standing outside an abandoned motel with the same face she had the day she disappeared. I knew it was wrong the moment I saw the first photograph in the case file. The photo showed a small town square somewhere in Alaska. The sunlight was harsh, almost white, so bright it blurred the edges of the rooftops, telephone poles, and old cars parked along the street. There was a white church at the far end of the road, a gas station, a grocery store, and maybe a dozen residents standing on the sidewalk. All of them were looking directly at the camera, but none of them had shadows. The trees had shadows. The road signs had shadows. The telephone poles had shadows. Even the trash can outside the grocery store cast a long, dark line across the pavement. Only the people did not. I sat in the records room for almost 2 minutes, staring at that photo, trying to make sense of it. Bad lighting, lens distortion, digital manipulation, some sick joke staged by whoever vanished before they disappeared. Then I zoomed in. Under the feet of a little boy in a white shirt, someone had written something in chalk on the road. "Caleb is coming." My name is Caleb Warren. I was 37 years old at the time. I used to be a state trooper. Later, I moved into a small investigative unit that handled missing person cases that were too old, too strange, or too difficult for regular departments to keep open. On paper, I was a federal case support investigator assigned to remote disappearances. In reality, I was sent to places local police did not want to revisit. A cabin with no footprints around it, but 4 people missing from inside. A mining town where the radios played dead men's voices every night. A stretch of forest road where GPS systems kept leading drivers back to the exact spot where other people had vanished. I did not believe everything was supernatural. You cannot do this job if you believe that. You would lose your mind within a year. I believed in evidence first. Tracks, timestamps, maps, camera footage, voice recordings, data. Only when all of those failed did I start paying attention to the things normal people refuse to name. The Hollow Creek case came to me through a missing family, the Millers. A father, a mother, a 10-year-old boy, and a 6-year-old girl. They had rented a car in Anchorage and driven north during summer vacation. They wanted to see the long daylight, the kind that barely lets night settle. Their route took them near Black Hollow National Forest. 3 days later, their SUV was found on the edge of the woods, unlocked, full tank of gas, food still packed in the trunk, phones left inside the glove compartment. No blood, no signs of a struggle, no footprints leading away from the vehicle. On the back seat, investigators found a small digital recorder belonging to the son. Apparently, the boy had been recording audio diaries during the trip. The technicians recovered the final file. I listened to it alone in my office. At first, there was breathing, a man's breathing, fast, uneven. I assumed it was the father. Then he whispered, "They're standing in the sun. They have no shadows. Don't let them invite you into the church." A child cried softly in the background. Then came bells, 3 of them, slow, heavy, like church bells. I checked the timestamp. The recording had been made at 12 p.m. Not midnight, not dawn, noon. I listened to it 3 times. On the 4th pass, right after the final bell, I heard something buried under the static, a voice far away. It said, "Caleb, I stopped the recording. I was alone in my office." The air conditioner was humming. The door was closed. The blinds were half drawn. I rewound the file. This time, after the last bell, there was only static. No name. I knew the brain could fill empty spaces with whatever it feared most. So I wrote it down in my notes. But I did not put it in the official report. There was one more item in the file. A photograph sent by Mrs. Miller to her sister a few hours before the family disappeared. The message attached to it said, "We found a cute little town. No town name. No GPS location. Just the photo. I ran the image through location software. I tried matching the church, the gas station, the grocery store, the ridgeline in the background. Nothing. Then I went through old maps, topographic records from the 1960s and 70s, half-digitized county archives, abandoned settlement indexes. That was when I found the name. Hollow Creek, a small mining town near Black Hollow National Forest. It appeared on a 1968 map. It appeared again in 1972, then it disappeared. No reason given, no evacuation notice, no wildfire, no landslide, no disease report, no closure order. After 1978, it simply stopped existing on maps. In an old file box, I found a copied memo with most of the text blacked out. Only one sentence remained readable. Do not send personnel in during daylight. I took it to Harris, my direct supervisor. Harris was not easy to rattle. Gray hair, tired eyes, always drinking cold coffee, never asking questions unless he already knew he needed the answer. He looked at the memo, then at me. Where did you get this? Old record storage. Hollow Creek isn't in your assignment area. It's connected to the Miller family. He set the paper down. You're sure? I turned my laptop toward him and showed him the photograph. He stared at it for a few seconds. This image is corrupted. Maybe. What do you want? Approval to go to Alaska. Harris looked at me longer than usual. Caleb, I know you hate cases with missing children. That's not relevant. It is relevant. Anna disappeared up north. I said nothing. My sister, Anna Warren, vanished 15 years earlier during a summer hiking trip. Not in Black Hollow. Not near Hollow Creek. At least not according to the official record. She was 21. I was 22. I was supposed to go with her that day, but I canceled at the last minute because of a shift. They found her backpack beside a creek, her hiking boots still tied together, her phone dead, no signs of an animal attack. The case was closed as a probable wilderness accident. I never believed that. Some disappearances leave silence behind. Others leave the feeling that someone removed a person from the world too cleanly. Anna was the second kind. I told Harris, I need to go, he sighed. 3 days, no more. And if local law enforcement tells you to leave, you leave. I nodded. When I went back to the records room to make copies of the photograph and the memo, the file had changed. The town photo was gone. In its place was a blank sheet of paper. I called the records clerk. She said no one had entered the room after me. I checked the hallway camera. Nothing. When I reached into my coat pocket for my phone, I felt something stiff. A photograph. I pulled it out. It was another picture of Hollow Creek's town square. The same white church, the same gas station, the same grocery store. But this time, standing in the middle of the road was a man with his back to the camera. Dark jacket. Slightly uneven left shoulder from an old injury. I knew that posture. It was me. I had never been to Hollow Creek. At my feet there was a shadow. But the shadow was not facing the same direction I was. It was turned toward the camera. That night, the office landline rang. Almost no one used that number anymore except a few local agencies. I picked up. A man's old voice came through static. Caleb Warren? Who is this? My name is Elias Boone. Black Hollow Ranger Station. I sat up straight. You know about the Miller family? I know the road they took. You know Hollow Creek? The line went quiet for a moment. Then he said, if you're coming here, don't enter the town until after sunset. Daylight is when they're most awake. Before I could ask anything else, the signal died. But before it went completely silent, I heard church bells. 3 slow rings. The next morning, I flew to Alaska. From the airport, I rented a vehicle and drove north toward Black Hollow. The farther I went, the weaker my phone signal became. The paved road narrowed into 2 lanes cutting through endless walls of dark pine. Summer light in Alaska feels different. It is not warm the way it is down south. It is pale, cold, like someone has placed a thin sheet of glass between the sky and the earth. By late afternoon, I saw a sign for the Black Hollow Ranger Station. The turnoff was half hidden by weeds. The station stood alone at the edge of the forest, Faded green paint, rusted roof, a flagpole with no flag beside it. The flagpole cast a long shadow across the dirt, but the shadow leaned toward the sun. I stopped the car. An old man stood on the porch, tall, thin, white beard, old ranger jacket, a steaming cup of coffee in one hand. He did not greet me. He only looked at me and said, "You're early." My flight schedule didn't give me much choice. Hollow Creek doesn't care about your schedule. I need to ask you some questions. Come inside. The station smelled like damp wood, old cigarettes, and burned coffee. Maps covered the walls. There were faded photos of ranger crews, a locked gun cabinet, and a radio unit that looked older than me. Elias Boone poured me coffee. I did not drink it. He noticed. He did not comment. "I'm told you were part of the Hollow Creek search in 1978, I said. He gave a dry laugh. "No, we weren't searching for Hollow Creek. We were trying to forget it." He opened a drawer and took out a journal wrapped in oilcloth. The leather cover was cracked. One corner had been burned. "My father was the pastor there," Elias said. "Before it was erased." "Erased by who?" "The living." He pushed the journal toward me. I opened it. The handwriting was shaky but legible. Many pages were yellow with age. A few lines looked wet, as if they had just been written. I read several broken entries. "The sun no longer shines down. It watches. They do not drink blood like in the stories. They drink the dark part of a man. If your shadow leaves your feet, do not turn around to look at it." I looked up. "When you say they, who do you mean?" Elias sat across from me. "The people of Hollow Creek. You're telling me they're vampires?" He smiled without humor. "That's the word people use when they don't understand something that feeds on human beings. But no, not exactly." He took out an old map and spread it across the table. 3 roads led to a red-circled point. 2 had been crossed out in red. The third had a note in pencil: "Only travel when the sun is low." "There are 3 rules," Elias said. I opened my notebook. He watched me write. "First, if your shadow starts moving in the wrong direction, don't step on it." I looked up. "My shadow?" "Yes." "Second, do not accept food or water from anyone in Hollow Creek." "Why?" "Because if you accept what they give you, the town counts that as an invitation to stay." I kept writing. "Third," Elias looked out the window, "if you hear church bells in daylight, don't enter the church. And at night?" "At night," he said, "the thing under the church can hear you better." That did not make me feel better. "What happened in 1978, I asked. Elias went quiet. Then he said, "My team entered near noon. The town was still there, houses intact, lights on, people outside. They told us there had been no landslide, no emergency, and nobody needed help. We started checking homes. After about 10 minutes, one of the men looked down and asked where his shadow had gone. He touched the edge of the table. Their shadows shortened, then faded, then peeled away like smoke. The first man to lose his shadow forgot the way out. How did you escape?" "My father pulled me out." "Your father was still there?" Elias looked at the journal. Enough of him was there to write. The wall clock suddenly clicked. Both hands jerked at the same time. Then stopped at 12. I checked my watch. 9:43 a.m. Elias stood quickly. "You need to leave. I thought you said to wait until night." "I said that before it knew you were here." I ran outside to my car. My keys were gone. I searched the driver's seat, my pockets, my bag. Nothing. On the windshield there was a small black handprint made of dust. A child's handprint. Beside it, written in the same dust, "No shadow after noon." I went back inside. Elias was standing beside the map drawer. He slowly opened it. My keys were lying inside, directly on top of the Hollow Creek map. He did not touch them. "You have to decide," he said. "Wait for sunset, or go now and let it choose the hour for you." I took the keys. I am not proud of what I did next, but if there was a chance that family was still alive, if there was even the smallest chance Anna was connected to this, I could not sit in an old ranger station waiting for the light to change. I drove the road marked on the map. Elias stood on the porch and watched me leave. Just before the forest swallowed the station from view, I saw him raise one hand, not waving, more like saying goodbye. The road to Hollow Creek was narrow and rough. Thick pines stood on both sides. Even with the sun high, very little light reached the road. My radio lost signal after 5 miles. About 20 minutes later, it turned on by itself. Not static, not music. A girl's voice came through, soft and distant. "Caleb." I hit the brakes. The car slid slightly on loose gravel. I knew that voice. There was no mistaking it. "Anna, don't let them see your shadow." I switched the radio off. It turned itself back on. This time, there was only breathing, then silence. 5 minutes later, I saw the town sign. "Welcome to Hollow Creek. Population 312. The wooden sign was clean. Fresh paint. The grass around it neatly cut. It did not look abandoned. It did not look erased. I drove slowly into town. My first feeling was not that Hollow Creek was old. It was that Hollow Creek had been preserved. A grocery store with a sign from the 1970s. An old gas station. A closed movie theater with faded posters. A small post office. The white church at the end of the road, its steeple rising into the cold daylight. Everything was clean, too clean. No dust on the windows, no leaves on the steps, no rust on the parked cars. As if someone maintained the town every day but refused to let it change. People stood outside. Not many at first. A dozen or so. Then more came out of the stores, the houses, the gas station. They looked at me. No one waved. No one acted surprised. They just stood there in the sunlight. Not one of them had a shadow. I parked in front of the grocery store. The body camera on my chest was recording. I turned on my handheld recorder. Day 1, 11:46 a.m. I have entered Hollow Creek. There are residents. No sign of abandonment. Visual anomaly confirmed. Residents do not appear to cast shadows. A woman approached me, maybe in her 60s. Silver hair, pale blue dress, white gloves even though it was not cold. Her smile was polite, almost warm. "Mr. Warren," she said, "we've been waiting for you." My hand stayed near my sidearm. "Who are you?" "Margaret Voss, mayor of Hollow Creek." "Hollow Creek doesn't exist on any current map." She smiled softly. "Maps often leave out places that do not want to be found." "Where are the Millers?" Her smile did not move. "They're resting in the shade. I want to see them." "You will, after the noon bell." "I'm not going into the church." For the first time, something in her expression went still. "Who told you that?" "Someone who knows this town. Elias Boone," she said, still playing gatekeeper. "Do you know why I'm here? You think you came because of that family. But Hollow Creek does not call people for reasons that small." She tilted her head and looked down at my feet. "Your shadow is strong, sad, but strong." I stepped back. "What did you say?" "You may refuse the church today," she said, "but you will go in before the sun goes down." Then she turned and walked away. I watched her cross the road. There was nothing beneath her feet. I began photographing the town. Through the camera, everything looked even more wrong. The people still had no shadows. But when I photographed my own reflection in the grocery store window, I saw my shadow in the image turned away from me. It was facing the church. I looked down in real life. My shadow was still there, long, clear, but its head seemed slightly angled. Not much, just enough for me to notice. I found the Miller family's SUV behind the motel. That was impossible. The vehicle was supposed to be in state evidence storage. I had seen the photos of it being towed. I had signed off on the recovered data, but there it was. Same plate, same scratch on the rear door. Inside were Mrs. Miller's jacket, the boy's backpack, and a stuffed bear in the back seat. On the floor was a child's drawing, a yellow crayon sun. In the center of the sun was a black eye. Underneath it, in a child's handwriting, "The sun must keep looking." At exactly 12, the church bell rang. Once, then again, then a third time. The sound was not loud, but I felt it in my bones, as if each bell struck my shadow instead of my ears. Every person on the street turned toward me. Not slowly, not one by one, all at once. I looked down. My shadow was fading. I ran into the nearest building, the grocery store. A bell above the door jingled as I entered. The store was empty. Shelves full, cereal boxes, canned goods, flickering fluorescent lights, no shadows. No shelf shadows, no refrigerator shadows, no shadow under my own feet. At the back wall behind the register, I saw photographs, dozens of them men, women, children, hunters, tourists, someone in a ranger uniform, a climate researcher I recognized from a missing person bulletin. Every photo had been cut at the bottom. The feet were there, but the shadows had been removed. I stepped closer. A small cassette recorder sat behind the counter. It clicked on by itself. Static, then my own voice came through. Day 3 in Hollow Creek. I'm starting to forget the shape of my shadow. I stepped back and knocked the recorder onto the floor. It kept playing. My voice continued. If anyone hears this, don't trust Anna when she's standing in sunlight. I froze. Behind me, the store door opened. A child stepped inside. It was the little boy from the photograph, the one standing above the words "Caleb is coming." He looked at me and smiled. "Mrs. Voss says you're not ready yet." "Who are you?" I asked. He looked down at the floor. "It's still following you," he said. "But not for long." I blinked. He was gone. After the bell stopped, I left the store. Outside, the town had returned to normal. A man washed a window. A woman watered plants. 2 children rode bicycles around the square. No one had a shadow. I decided to search the motel. The Hollow Creek Motel sat near the end of the street. Its neon sign was dead, but the office door stood open. No one was at the front desk. An old guest book lay on the counter. I opened it. The Miller family was listed near the end. Before them were the names of the missing hunters. The climate researcher, a couple from Canada. Then I saw a name that stopped my breathing. Anna Warren. The date beside it was 15 years ago. Not the location where she was officially reported missing. Not the date in the record. But the signature was hers. I knew that signature. She always wrote the first A too large. I sat in the chair behind the counter, my hands shaking. In my bag, the pastor's journal Elias had given me fell out even though I had not touched it. It opened by itself near the middle. I read, in 1908, miners digging beneath the old church found a stone chamber that appeared in no building plan. On the walls were symbols, a sun, fangs, and human figures with their shadows pulled away from their feet. After that, the sickness began. Not fever, not blood disease. People became cold. They stopped sleeping at night. They could not stand darkness for too long. During the day, they smiled, worked, prayed, and behaved normally. But they began craving what the pastor called the dark part of a person. Shadow, memory, guilt, love, grief. The things people carry but never look at directly. In the journal, the pastor wrote, "They do not drink blood. Blood feeds the body. Shadow feeds what is underneath," I read on. A secret order formed in town, the Order of the White Sun. They discovered that noon daylight could keep the townspeople awake, calm, obedient, and human. But the daylight was no longer ordinary daylight. It had become an eye held open over Hollow Creek, watching, keeping the thing beneath the church asleep. To keep that eye open, the townspeople sacrificed their own shadows. After that, they had none. But the seal weakened over time. Every few years, it needed new shadows. Outsiders, people with powerful memories, grief, love, guilt, or unfinished pain. I thought of the Millers. I thought of Anna. I thought of myself. There was a knock at the motel door. 3 knocks. Slow, I drew my gun. "Stay where you are," a voice outside answered. "Caleb." It was no longer coming through a radio. It was right outside the door. "Anna, you have to open the door." I looked through the slit between the curtains. She stood on the motel porch, brown hair to her shoulders, old denim jacket, the same young face she had the day she disappeared. 21 years old, not aged by a single day, and no shadow under her feet. I opened the door but kept the gun low at my side. Anna looked at it, then at me. "You still make that face when you're scared." I did not know what to say. For 15 years I had imagined finding my sister. I thought I would hug her, cry, ask where she had been, ask why she never came home. But When I finally saw her standing there in the cold sunlight of a town erased from every map, all I could ask was, "Are you real?" Anna smiled sadly. "I'm not sure anymore. You haven't aged. Not completely. You've been here this whole time?" She looked toward the church. "Most of it. Where are the Millers, under the church? Are they alive?" "Yes. But if you try to pull them out the wrong way, everyone dies." "Are you protecting this place?" She said nothing. I stepped onto the porch. "Anna, you were gone for 15 years. I looked for you. I ruined my life looking for you." "I know." "No, you don't." Her eyes reddened, but she did not cry. "I know more than you think." Wind moved through the street. Not a leaf shifted. Anna said, "You have to enter the church before the sun goes down. If night comes, the thing underneath will hear you." I gave a dry laugh. "Elias told me not to go in if I heard bells in daylight. He was right, but you heard them, and you stayed." I looked down. My shadow had pulled a few inches away from my heels. Not faded, not tilted, separated. Like someone standing too close, but no longer touching me. Anna saw me notice. "Don't look at it too long." "Why?" "Because once it knows you can see it leaving, it starts remembering for you." "Remembering what?" She looked at me. "The things you tried to forget." I followed Anna to the church. Not because I trusted her. Because after 15 years, I still could not let her go alone. The Hollow Creek Church stood at the end of the road. Clean white outside. Straight steeple. Wooden doors slightly open. But inside it was rotting. Dust-covered pews. Broken stained glass. The cross had been removed from the wall, leaving a pale shape where it had once hung. Sunlight came through the shattered windows, but it did not fall in beams. It fell in circles, like open eyes on the floor. Anna stood in the aisle. "Don't step inside the light." "Why?" "That's where it sees best." I placed my recorder on the old pulpit. It immediately began playing. An old man's voice came through. I guessed it was the pastor from the journal. "We did not create the curse. We only learned how to delay it." He breathed hard. "If anyone finds this recording, do not trust the people without shadows. But do not think they are the worst thing here." The recorder stopped. Anna crouched and pulled aside a loose board behind the pulpit. Beneath it was a hatch. No handle, only a carved symbol, a sun with a black pupil. Around it, long shadows pinned into a circle. Anna placed her hand on the symbol. It opened. Stone stairs led down into darkness. "I'll go first," she said. "No, you still think you can protect me. Bad habit." She looked at me, and for 1 second I saw the real Anna again, my sister. The girl who ate all the cereal and blamed me. The girl who was afraid of the dark until she was 16. The girl who called me every time her car made a strange noise. Then the moment passed. We went down. The tunnel appeared in no blueprint. The stone walls were damp. Scratches ran along them like fingernail marks. Prayers had been written in white chalk. The sun symbol appeared over and over, sometimes drawn over itself. So many times it looked like an eye scratched open. The deeper we went, the more I heard breathing. Not one person, many, all at once. At the bottom was a large stone chamber. In the center was a deep pit. White light rose from it. There was no opening above, no power source. But the light looked like noon sunlight, cold and without warmth. Around the pit stood people. The Miller family was there. The father, the mother, both children. Their eyes were open but empty. Under each of them, a shadow had been separated from the body and stretched across the stone floor. Each shadow was pinned down with silver nails. Dozens of others stood the same way. Hunters, tourists, the climate researcher, people from the grocery store photographs. All of them stood like living markers around the pit. Their mouths moved together. The sun must keep looking. I stepped toward the Miller girl. Her shadow was pinned near the chest with a small silver nail. I crouched. Anna grabbed my wrist. "Don't. She's a child. I know. I can't just stand here. If you pull it now, the seal shifts. The thing below wakes up." I did not listen. I gripped the nail. It was so cold my fingers went numb. I pulled only a little. The entire town shook. Something moved under the pit. The white light flickered. For 1 second I saw beneath it, not the bottom, an eye, not a human eye. No white, no iris, just a dark slit opening among rows of white teeth. Above us, screams echoed down through the church. The whole town was screaming. Anna shoved me away and hammered the nail back into the child's shadow. The light steadied. The chamber stopped shaking. I sat on the stone floor, gasping. Anna knelt in front of me. "If you save one person at the wrong time," she said, her voice shaking, "all of us die." I looked at her. "Then when is the right time?" She did not answer immediately. Then she said, "When there is a replacement." I understood before she said the next word, but I made her say it. "Who?" Anna looked at my shadow. "You," I stood. "No. No. You and I are twin-shadowed. What the hell does that mean? Same blood, same first memories. Your shadow can replace mine without breaking the seal." "You called me here to replace you?" She closed her eyes. "Not at first. Don't lie to me. I tried to keep you away." "How?" "By sending your voice through the radio. By writing my name in a photograph." That wasn't just me. Footsteps sounded on the stairs behind us. Margaret Voss entered the chamber, with about 20 residents of Hollow Creek. None of them had shadows. She looked at me with something almost like pity. "Anna resisted us for years," she said. "But the seal is failing. It needs a new bearer." I raised my gun. "Stay back." Margaret did not flinch. "A gun won't help you hold on to your shadow, Caleb." Anna stepped between us. "Enough, Margaret." Margaret looked at her. "Your brother deserves the truth. I'm telling him." "You're telling him the version that hurts less," I said. "Then tell me the version that hurts more." Margaret walked around the white-lit pit. The Order of the White Sun was formed to protect the world. Our ancestors sacrificed their shadows to keep that thing asleep. No one thanked them. No one remembered them. The government erased the town. Maps erased us. Our families were left here with it. So you started taking outsiders. We maintained the seal. By taking children? For the first time, Margaret looked away. We did not choose lightly. Anna gave a bitter laugh. "No. You chose people no one would search for long enough. Lost travelers, grieving people. People whose records could be changed." Margaret looked at her. "And you chose your brother." Anna recoiled as if struck. I looked at her. She whispered, "I didn't want to." "But you did. The seal is breaking. Caleb, I've held it for 15 years. I'm not enough anymore." I looked at the white pit, at the Miller family, at the missing people, at my sister, still 21 years old, with eyes older than Elias Boone. "There's another way," I said. Margaret shook her head. "There isn't." At that moment, my shadow detached from my feet completely. It stood up, not taller than me, not smaller. A black human shape, no face, no eyes. But I knew it was looking at me. Every resident stepped back, Anna whispered. Anna whispered, "Caleb." My shadow spoke with my voice, but older, more tired. "I remember what you forgot." I could not breathe. It raised one hand and pointed at the pit. "The sun isn't holding them. They are keeping the sun from blinking." The sky above us went dark, only for a few seconds. The white light in the pit flickered. When it returned, I knew something had changed. Even underground, I could feel it. Margaret looked upward, terrified. "The sun," Anna said. It blinked. Something began to rise from the pit. It had no real shape, not a body. A mass of darkness, edges like smoke, filled with rows of tiny white teeth. It did not crawl. It rose like ink spreading through water. The missing people around the pit began to moan. Their pinned shadows writhed. Margaret turned to me. "Step into the circle." "No, you don't understand. If it gets out, Hollow Creek won't be the only place that dies. It will follow every shadow, every city, every street, every place with light. I understand enough to know you turned protection into abduction. We survived. No, you hid from death." Margaret rushed forward and grabbed my wrist. Her skin was cold as water under ice. "You think your morality can save anyone? You think because you suffer more nobly than us, you get to judge?" I looked at the recorder in my hand. It clicked on. Not with the Miller father's voice, not with my future voice. It played back every warning I had heard. Do not enter in daylight. Do not step on your own shadow. They do not drink blood. They drink that part. Your shadow remembers what you forget. I looked at my shadow. It stood between me and the pit. Then I understood. The people of Hollow Creek had cut shadows away from living bodies and nailed them to the floor. That was why the seal hurt. That was why it needed to be fed again and again. They were not keeping the sun open with light. They were keeping it open with memories separated from their owners. A shadow was not fuel. It was witness. It remembered what the living refused to remember. I turned to Anna. Pull your nail. She looked at me as if I had asked her to die. If I do, I'll age. You'll live, I'll remember. Yes, she began to cry. Not loudly. Just tears running down her face. You don't know what I've seen. Then remember it with me. I knelt before Anna's shadow. It lay near the pit, thin and pale, but still shaped like her. I gripped the silver nail. Anna placed her hand over mine. Together we pulled. The nail came loose. Anna screamed, not from physical pain, from 15 years rushing back in a single breath. Her face changed, not old, but older, tired, 36 years old. For a few seconds, her hair seemed longer. Then it tangled around her face. Small lines appeared near her eyes. Her body shook violently. Her shadow slid back beneath her feet. Anna collapsed, gasping. I remember, she said. I remember all of them. Margaret screamed. Stop! The townspeople panicked. Some ran for the stairs. Some dropped to their knees and prayed toward the pit. Others clutched their heads as their own shadows, twisted shapes hidden somewhere in that chamber, began crawling back toward them. I opened the pastor's journal. The pages turned by themselves. They stopped at a section written in dark ink. Not a ritual of offering, a ritual of return. I read aloud. My voice shook at first, then steadied. What belongs to the living returns to the living. What was cut from the foot returns to the body. What was buried in light rises under truth. The sun needs no blood. The sun needs no stolen shadow. Let it see by true light. Anna stood and moved with me around the pit. We pulled the nails, one by one. Each time a shadow returned to its owner, that person woke. A middle-aged man screamed his wife's name. A young woman fell to the ground, sobbing as she remembered the year she disappeared. The miller boy opened his eyes and called for his mother. She woke moments later. But at the same time, the people of Hollow Creek began casting shadows again. And when their shadows returned, time returned with them. One young-looking man aged in seconds, hair turning white, skin folding in on itself. A woman collapsed, clutching her chest. Another person stared at his hands, as if he could not understand why they had become the hands of someone 90 years old. Margaret watched it all like she was watching hell open. You're killing them. No, I said. I'm giving back the years they borrowed. She lunged at me. Faster than her age, faster than a human being. I did not move in time. But my shadow did. It did not strike her. It stepped into her feet. Margaret froze. Then she screamed. Her shadow appeared beneath her. It was not shaped like a person. It was a huge, twisted black mass filled with tiny screaming faces. The missing family, hunters, children, old people. Everyone she had chosen, she saw them. Not with her eyes, with memory. Margaret fell to her knees and clawed at the stone. I did it for the town, she sobbed. I did it for us. Anna looked at her. At first, the sun blinked again, this time longer. The thing in the pit rose close to the edge. A cold smell poured out, not like rot, but like rooms that had been locked so long nobody remembered building them. The white light dimmed. I read the final passage in the journal. What has no shadow may not hide in shadow. What has no name may not borrow the names of the living. What hungers beneath light must be seen by true light. Anna and I pulled the last nail. It was holding my shadow. I do not know when it appeared. Maybe when I entered town, maybe before that. I pulled it free. My shadow turned to look at me. If a shadow can be sad, it was sad. Then it slid back beneath my feet. I fell. I remembered Anna's disappearance. Not the official version. Not the version I had told myself. I remembered the argument before her trip. I remembered her telling me I was selfish because I always chose work. I remembered ignoring her call the night before she vanished. I remembered her final text. "Are you still my brother?" I never answered. I lay on the stone floor, unable to breathe, memories pouring into me like water into lungs. Anna held me. "I forgive you," she said. I do not know if I deserved that, but I stood. The light in the pit changed. It was no longer white and cold. It became warmer, gold. For the first time, the light in Hollow Creek looked like real sunlight. The thing beneath the pit was exposed, not because it had fully emerged, because it had nowhere left to hide. It had lived inside severed shadows, inside pinned memories, inside the fear people refused to take back. When the shadows returned to their owners, it was seen. The shadows around the chamber stretched toward the pit, not like offerings, like hands pulling a door shut. The thing folded inward. Its rows of teeth opened without sound. Then it was dragged down. The pit sealed with a sharp crack. Above us, the church began to shake. Stone fell. Wood split. Anna pulled me toward the stairs as the others followed. Part of the church ceiling collapsed just as we burst through the front doors. Outside, Hollow Creek had changed. It did not vanish. It did not burn. It did not dissolve into fog like a story someone tells around a campfire. It simply aged. Paint peeled from the houses. Cars rusted. Windows cracked. Weeds broke through the sidewalks. The gas station roof sagged. The surviving residents stood in the street with shadows at their feet. Some were too old to stand. Some cried. Some looked at the sun as if seeing it for the first time. The Miller family was carried out of the church. They were alive. Not all right, but alive. The boy looked at me and asked, "Did you see the sun blink?" I did not answer, because when I looked up, the sky was still bright. But for one very brief moment, I felt something looking down at me. Not the sun, something behind it. We left Hollow Creek before full dark. Anna sat in the passenger seat wrapped in a blanket, staring at her hands as if she could not believe they belonged to her. She was older, weaker, but alive. I drove past the "Welcome to Hollow Creek" sign without looking back. Even so, in the rearview mirror, I saw the town behind us, and I saw the shadow of the church stretching across the road, longer than any shadow should have been at that hour. When I returned, my report was rejected. Harris told me there was no Hollow Creek, no rescue operation, no Miller case in our system. The Miller family was officially recovered after becoming lost in the woods. Anna Warren was listed as a surviving adult identified from an old missing persons case, but the location of recovery was left blank. I showed him the photographs. Some of them remained: the main street, the church, the residence. This time, everyone in the pictures had shadows. Harris studied them for a long time. Then he said, "You should take some time off," I asked. "Do you remember approving my Alaska trip?" He looked at me. "Caleb, I didn't approve anything. You filed 3 days of personal leave." I did not argue. Some truths are not protected by convincing other people. Some places exist better when fewer people believe in them. Anna stayed with me for a few weeks. She slept a lot. Sometimes she woke up crying because of names she remembered. People taken down into the pit after her. People she had not been able to save. One night she stood at the window, looking at her shadow on the floor, and said, "I used to think losing my shadow meant losing pain, but it really meant losing the ability to know what I had done." I did not know how to comfort her. A few weeks later, I developed the final roll of film in my darkroom. I still use film for some cases. Digital files can corrupt, disappear, be overwritten. Film is more stubborn. The last photo showed the church after part of it collapsed. In the frame were me, Anna, the Miller family, and several others standing in the street. Everyone had a shadow, even Anna. I stared at the photograph for a long time before I realized what was wrong. My shadow was not attached to my feet. It stood half a step to my left. And while I was looking at the ruined church, my shadow was facing the camera. I turned the photograph over. The paper was still damp. Letters slowly appeared on the back, as if written from inside the image. Next time, don't let the sun blink. I do not know what next time means. I do not know how many places like Hollow Creek are still out there. All I know is that since that day, when the sun is directly overhead, I never step on my own shadow. And sometimes, just before I look down, the shadow at my feet lifts its head first.